Great. Welcome on behalf of Primary Stages and ESPA family. I welcome you all to today's Lunch and Learn. Today's Lunch and Learn playwriting instructor is Winter Miller, who is a member of the ESPA faculty. Winter, we're so excited to have you.
So excited to be here.
Yeah. Winter is a founding member of the Obie winning collective 13P, and she's best known for In Darfur, which premiered in a sold-out run at the Public Theater, followed by an SRO performance at their 1,800-seat Delacorte, a first for a play by a woman. So, like, huzzah, that's amazing. Some of her other works include Spare Rib, No One Is Forgotten, The Penetration Play, Look at Us, Arrival, Conspicuous, and so many others. You can catch her work it's published by Samuel French, Play Scripts, and found in anthologies. So while you're in isolation right now or you're socially distancing, read them. Check out Winter's plays. They're really awesome. So I have a document to share with you all before we dive in. I sent it in an email, but I just want to put it up here. This is what Winter sent our way. And as we start the Q&A, I'm just going to keep it up here. Read it, look at it. I'll scroll in a couple of minutes. So just take it in.
Actually, but just before we do anything, just if you could all focus on Rule 6 and just, I know you're all muted, but just read it out loud to yourself. I'll speak it out loud. On your mark, get set, go. Nothing is a mistake. There's no win and no fail. There's only make. It's like Yoda, but better. Okay, back to you, Kelly.
Amazing, amazing. Well, shall we start the Q&A?
Let's do it.
And shall we start at the beginning? How do you kick off your process, Winter? What does that look like for you?
You know, first of all, I just want to say, you guys, I'm sitting outside I'm at an artist retreat in California, and I thought it would be pretty if you had some beautiful nature to look at. So I'm just going to give you, this is as pretty as it gets. It's been very gray, and we've not been able to see more than like 50 feet ahead. But I thought that when you get bored of staring at my mug, you can look behind me at the trees. Hopefully I've put myself in enough light here. So how do I get started? You know, it depends on what is the reason for my getting started. Why am I writing this play? What am I doing? Why am I moving this monitor? Because I'm worried I'm in the dark. There we go.
We can see you.
Oh, you can? How about, that's probably better. It depends what the reason is, right? Sometimes it's that I see something in the newspaper and it just kind of spurs this curiosity of why is this way? What does that mean? How did it get to be this way? And then I have a question about it. And because I have a question about it that I can't easily solve, an example of a play that I have not written, but something that I think about a lot is the subject of gentrification. I live in Brooklyn, and one of the things I think about is as a white, educated, middle-class person, what is the most responsible way to be a member of the neighborhood or the community, and what isn't? And I don't have the answer to that. And so that would be something that I would write a play about to explore. So basically to say, if there's a question that you have that you cannot answer, and that you cannot answer easily, then that's a good subject to write a play about. Another thing I stumbled across was I was reading the newspaper and I saw something that said, the National Society of Black Social Workers says that people who are not African-American adopting an African-American child is the equivalent of genocide. And I thought, wow, that's really fascinating. Is that true? Right? Because if what I'm thinking is that, you know, a child who needs a home is a child who needs a home. However, is there such thing as a best possible scenario? And of course, the best possible scenario that we are all told is that a heterosexual family, possibly in their 30s, and you can sort of go down the line of what is acceptable or deemed acceptable in this country. And I just thought, how do we know that that's true? That's what we've been told, but how do we know that's true? For instance, how do we know that 3 parents aren't better, or that 2 parents are the same sex, or a commune, etc.? But what interested me about this thing that the social worker said was, I was curious about what they meant by their definition of Black, and were they talking about skin color? Were they talking about culture? And I just wanted to explore those things. So the way that I got into that play was I decided I was going to write it from 3 perspectives, and I was writing this for teenagers because I want them to think about it. The one perspective was of an adoptee. There were several adoptees. Another perspective was the person who puts up a child for adoption. And then the third perspective was the family that adopts a child. And I wanted to explore them almost like a pegboard of weaving through of what were the reasons that people had to do what they did, and how did they feel about those decisions, and what were the complications that ensued, and why do we assume that one thing is better than another. And for me, at the end of the play, I still couldn't answer that question. I still couldn't tell you what the best possible scenario is for raising a child, and what those factors are, and what way is the most important. And to me, that is a successful play-going venture, because I don't set out to know the answer, and I don't set out to tell you that I have an answer. I'm just setting out to say, this is something that's on my mind. I would like you to think about it too. And perhaps collectively, we will all come to some broader conclusions, but the point being that we question the status quo. So the way that I get into plays is, there's something I'm curious about, something I'm angry about, or something that I just feel like I couldn't possibly have an answer to. The other thing is something that I feel like I really want to change. There's some injustice that I'm upset about. And I want to explore that as a way of saying, do you, the audience, who do you empathize with, and why? And what will you do differently after watching this play? And you may not, but my goal is never to answer a question. The reason that I write plays is that I want to feel less alone, and I want to find my place in the world, but I also want you as the audience to be able to, if you don't empathize with the person or the people in the play, I want you to ask yourself why and get curious about that. And if you do, then I want you to feel like you're not alone, or you're less alone, or you're not the only one. So my basic position is, how can I connect with people? And I think there are a lot of reasons and a lot of ways to connect with people. I think that you can read an opinion editorial or a story in the newspaper, and in 700 words or 1,000 words, the reporter can make you in touch with a narrative that is going to break your heart. And I think that that's incredible, and the power of a good story. But what I like about a play is that you can go much deeper into that, and you can get into the emotional truths of these people. That's where I'll stop on that question.
So do characters come to you first, or is it plot for you?
It's almost never plot. Yeah, I wish that it was. Am I dark now? Is it happening again?
We can still see you. Yeah.
It's like a what happens? What if I give a lecture standing up? That's probably worse.
Oh, that's worse.
That was worse. Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I know I could have picked a room inside with lights and controlled this, but that seemed so.
The elements.
So logical.
The world is your stage. This is great.
I have been filming the animals around here and pretending that I'm auditioning them for scenes. I auditioned 2 lizards for Annie yesterday. And
Which
there's
orphans or which characters?
Molly.
Ah, yes.
And in fact, there was a little lizard that I was trying to get to audition to actually sing the song, but the lizard wouldn't talk, and this other lizard came running through, and it looked like Molly turned into a grown-up lizard during the audition, which reminded me of that scene in Kinky Boots where the boy turns into a man. It's really masterfully done with these lizards. I wish that I started out with a plot because I find plot much harder, and I find characters, I won't say easier, but I understand them better as I am a human and not a plot. I am most fascinated by the psychology of humans. Why do we do what we do? What do we want? What are we willing to do in order to get what we want? All of that feels much more, it's something that I can take a bite into because I am human. There are times when I have had a plot, and I view that as a gift from all of the deities. When I wrote the play In Darfur that Kelly mentioned, I did have a plot. And the reason I had a plot was that I entered a contest, and the contest asked for a plot. And so in this space of like an hour, I came up with a plot, and I didn't think I would win the contest. But it was great when I did win is that I had a plot. And also, I never would have written that play if I hadn't won a contest, because I would have convinced myself that I was not the right person to tell a story about Sudanese people in the middle of a genocide. But having the commission and having to complete it made me feel like somebody believes I can do this, and so I'm going to push through. The other time that plot appeared was I was sleeping, which I often do, and this rarely happens. I woke up and I had a plot. And so I just sat down and I wrote the first act of my play, the penetration play, very, very quickly in, like 4 hours or something. But then it took me another year to figure out what act what act 2 was and act 3. And then ultimately it was a 1 act. That's how I solved that problem.
That is some great problem solving. I like that problem solving. The question, it just came into my head. Do you have any tricks? We've had like a couple of tricks on how to inspire your writing. Like, do walks help you? Or are you a shower thought person?
Oh, I'm so glad you clarified. I was sitting here thinking like juggling or something.
Card tricks, pulling a bunny out of a hat.
Yeah, I've got a lot of bunnies and a lot of hats. Yes, when I was an undergrad, I did a program where we traveled around Europe, and in the Netherlands, I'm going to call them Holland because I think they prefer that. In the nether regions, they don't like it. In Holland, there was a lecturer who said that there are studies that show that being around water will release your natural thoughts, your thought process. And I have found this to be true and fully believe it to be true because notice that when you are in the shower or peeing or drinking water or near a waterfall, that there will be epiphanies that you have, that you're not even realizing that you're having them. You're just sort of, so one way is to do those things without the outside influence of music, or like, don't be like Trump and check your phone on the toilet. Don't be like Trump. I mean, that's just a given. But that's a place where you're your natural instincts are coming through. Something will come to you. So I will always tell students to drink water, just to have it next to you. So I do believe profoundly that water, and I'm not talking like Gatorade or juice, that water specifically, yes. Ashley is holding up her water because she knows the power of water, as is Pamela. Maybe all of you are, but I can only see a few of you at once. Oh, okay. Yeah. Everyone hold up your water, brag, whatever. Do it. I'm outside.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers to nature's water. So that's one thing. Yes, walking, although with no predictable controlled study. Sometimes when I'm walking, something comes to me, and many times when I'm walking, it doesn't. I like see a baby or a dog, and I just start thinking about that, or it's a much less philosophical practice. But I did once, while walking in Central Park, I bumped into the playwright Lee Blessing, and I was asking, I said hello, and we talked, and he said that he was out walking because he was trying to figure out his play. And so he is a person who walks and figures things out. The other morning I did walk through the woods, and a monologue came to me, and that was very helpful. I have since walked in the woods and no monologues have come to me. But I saw some bunnies, so, take your chances. In terms of in terms of tricks, what I would say for anyone is try putting things, give yourself a list of things and see if you can write a scene with those things in them. The two people who have taught me that are Tina Howe and Paula Vogel. They both have engaged those things, and some of the things that are in the scene seem utterly absurd, but the process of trying to put them all together is one that takes me out of my normal whatever it is I'm doing, because somebody is saying, can you put a grasshopper in your scene, or a blender, or the sound of trees dropping sap? That's never happened, but if it did, then I would have that. So yes, which is to say that if there is, I guess I don't think of it as a trick so much as an opportunity, as a door that's opening. But I think the greatest thing that you can offer yourself as a writer is, one, permission to write, permission to speak what is taboo. You don't have to show it to anyone, but you can put it out there so that you can see what it is. And most importantly, to say yes to whatever it is that comes into your brain as you're writing, and allow it to come through. I think of it as, there was a game there was an early video game, and I think that it was called Zelda or something. Let's just say it was called Zelda Fitzgerald. It was not, but that seems like a great name.
It's definitely Zelda.
Yeah.
I don't know about the last name.
And you would, it was rudimentary. Like, you would push the arrow key and like try to walk through a door. Like, there was no chow, chow, pew, that stuff. Anyway, if you walk through a door, you would find yourself in a room. And once you were in that room, there would be 3 different doors. And depending on which door you took, like a scorpion would attack you, or you would find a pot of gold, or different things. It was like choose your own adventure. But if you stayed in the room and you never went through the other doors, the game was over. And I think of playwriting that way. If you don't walk through the door, which is a yes, then the game is over. So you might as well start off with as many yeses, all the yeses, as possible in order to walk through the door until you encounter a no. right? So you're walking through the door, and what you learn is that in your play, there's a house that talks. Okay. Instead of saying, no, I cannot write a play in which a house talks, you just say, okay, let's see where this goes. So you've got a play where your house talks, and then you enter the next room, and it turns out that it comes to you that there is a family in this room. And then you walk through the next door, and it comes to you that there is a flying donkey. And you start to write the flying donkey, and you get this sense in you after you write the flying donkey scene. After the no comes up, you go, no flying donkeys. You say, okay, but what if? What if? You write that scene, and if at the end of that scene, you realize, no, this is not a play with flying donkeys. We have talking houses and we have this family. Okay, a rule has been established. This is a play with no flying donkeys. And then you continue on through your doors and discover what are all the yeses until you know it's a no, right? So how do you know that your play is spoken in English? That's an assumption. You don't know it until you've written the play. So let all things be a surprise to you. And when you have the urge to say, no, I can't write that. No, I can't do that. No, I can't say that. Try saying yes and let that go. Like let that yes go as far as it can, because as soon as you say no, you shut the door. And it's all well and good to write plays without flying donkeys, but we want access to the plays with talking houses.
Ashley wrote in, she said it's like improv. Yes. It's yes and what if.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. For In Darfur in particular, what was the research for that like? And do you have any advice for people who are trying to embark on a more research-heavy play like that?
Let's see. That's in pieces. The research for In Darfur, the reason that I wrote that play was because I felt compelled to let other citizens of the United States know what was going on in Darfur at that time. And the reason that I knew so much that most people, probably 99.5% of people did not know, is that at that time I was working as a researcher at the New York Times for an op-ed columnist, Nicholas Kristof. And his focus was on Darfur, and this was 2004. And he was going there and he was writing about it, and no one else was. I mean, when I say no one else, I say a few people, but very few people with the kind of real estate that he had. So people were not talking about Darfur, and they didn't know about it, and the US government was not doing anything. So he was writing these impassioned columns, and he would go, and my job was to fact check as much as possible. Obviously, I couldn't fact check conversations, but to try to make sure that what he was saying was, either provable or relied on the reporting that he did. And he's a trustworthy and dogged reporter. So it wasn't, what was most difficult about those columns were the actual stories of what was happening to people. They were gruesome and awful, as we have all come to know. But between 2004 and 2005, this stuff had not really had to deal with was, what do we show? Oh no, my internet connection is unstable.
But you're back now.
Phew. In the time that I was gone, I told you everything you needed to know. So we're done.
Okay, great. Okay, everyone's a playwright now.
Everyone go have a cookie. It was channeled through me. I can't take responsibility, nor can I repeat it. What I was saying is that a UN peacekeeper was there, and all he had was his camera, and he took all of these photographs that were evidence of what was happening and the brutality. And we looked through all of these, and the question that the newspaper was asking was, what can families see? What can we show the public? And it was a series of questions. And I found all of those questions to be super interesting. You know, what do we show and why and when, and how our, you know, audience is expected to temper what that is for whatever their family can see. But what we didn't show were tons and tons of photographs. And I saw all of those, and very few people saw them. And I felt at the time, I know so much more about this because it's my job, and I want people to know about it. And Nick was doing his job, obviously writing about it in the New York Times. And it's not like I was going to, you know, supersede that. So I just thought about, what is it that I do? Well, I write plays. So can I put this into a play? And through that, can I tell people this is what's going on and spur us to action? And obviously there's different ways to take action. But that was, you know, that was the play that if I were writing it now, I probably wouldn't write it now, because for one thing, people have access to that information and they can write it. And someone who is Sudanese or Chadian, or who was there, I would say that they could write it. And it wasn't my story to tell, but it was a story that I thought needed to be told. And at that point in time, I felt that I was one person among however many others who could tell it. Certainly other people can and do write whatever their version of that is. But that was what empowered me to tell that story, was that I had a mission. I wanted people to know what was going on, and I wanted us to pay attention and do something about it. That was the first part of the question. The second part of the question was research. Yeah?
Yeah. How would you, any advice on folks in diving into a project that is research heavy like that?
Yeah. I would say, you know, before you start writing, poke around, go down a bunch of rabbit holes to see what do you know about this subject that you're writing about, and what more can you find out? Because it's not that you're necessarily going to find out sort of big plot things necessarily, but you will find out specifics that are really important. And the reason I say that specifics are important is that there's nothing truer than the fact that the specific is the universal. The universal is not the specific. The specific is the universal. So if I'm telling you what I ate for breakfast, and I say, yeah, I had some food, it was good. Or I say, I cut up the strawberries and I got the, you know, whatever it is. If you go really specific, then you who are watching it can say, oh, I too have cut up strawberries. I too have eaten granola. I hate granola. Whatever it is, you have some kind of connection with what the subject is that you wouldn't have if I just said, I had some breakfast. You know, reading novels is a great way of seeing how people use the specific. Because if you think about, if you're telling a love story, that love story has probably already been told by someone else, right? Like, we're all probably writing Romeo and Juliet over and over again, and whoever wrote Romeo and Juliet before Shakespeare wrote Romeo and Juliet, whether that was Afraben or the Greeks, or anyway, I could go on. But the point is, there aren't that many new stories to tell. So it's the fact of making it specific that is the reason to tell the story, along with whatever your drive is. So when you're researching, that's where you can get your ideas for what is specific. What did someone wear? What did they say? Where were they? All of these things can be things that kind of jog your memory when you're writing. So what I like to do is to read a lot of stuff, highlight, and make timelines if I need one, about what's happening. If it's a real event, what happened when. And then I can refer back to them, but I'm not constantly trying to research while writing. Then at some point, there's actually, for me, there's a lot of time spent not knowing what it is I'm going to write and just thinking about like letting the research sort of live, and then kind of going about life and just kind of letting it be there and trying not to pressure myself to know what it is that I'm doing, but to trust that it's going to come. And so then once I start writing, then I try to just start writing and do as little research as possible, except as I think that it will help me, right? So if I need to check a date, I will check a date. But the part that is dangerous is that in checking a date, let's say I go online, then I'm going to find 5 other things that are totally fascinating. And then out of those 20 other things, and so on, and then I won't go back to where I was writing. So it's better that you not check things than do. But I sometimes, this sort of annoying thing that wants to be, correct and right makes me go check the thing. And sometimes it's fine, and sometimes it's a mistake. But the larger mistake is to begin writing and then decide that you just don't know enough, and to go research and research and research and have it become a way for you to avoid writing, which is, for me, very easy to do. Like, it's so much more fun to read what someone else has written than to try to discipline myself to do something that I don't know what it is that I'm doing, right? There's security in what's already been put on the page. So do your research if it's a research thing. Mm-hmm. Then ask questions. Find out who in your community has thought about these things and have conversations with them. Have conversations about ideas. Have conversations about, why did that person do that? Why did they make that decision? How could that possibly have benefited them? Or what were they thinking? Like, just talk about it. Think about, if you were in the shoes of one of your characters, why would you do that? What do you get? And then when you're ready, begin to write. And you can decide for yourself, am I writing a play that is absolutely true to fact and everything must happen the way that whoever reported it said that it happened? Or am I writing a play in which I am loosely bound to what people say is the truth, right? This happened on November 3rd. They were talking to 400 people, etc. Is that important to you? If it is, then keep it in your play and be conscious of that. If it's not, then wear it loosely. Know that there was a crowd of people, and that it was, neither big nor small, and then and continue on. But the main thing is to not let your research run you, right? Because it's just so easy to say, I have to obey all that's true, when really what you have to obey most of all is what is plausible, what is true to your characters. You can't write a character who does something, but you haven't set up a world in which that character would do that thing. So your responsibility is not to report the facts. Your responsibility is to make the facts come alive and be plausible, because anyone else can read that Wikipedia entry, or, if you go to better sources than that.
Totally. I love this idea of trusting that the play is working in you at all times. How have you developed that muscle of trust? Or is it just something that comes with time and learning how to give yourself permission?
Mostly it's permission, and I would be 100% lying to you if I said that I had full trust. There are so many times spent going, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to write this play, or what's wrong with me, or I'm, all of that, even when I'm in the play. So I can't talk to you and say, oh yeah, I've been doing this and it's, I just do it. No, I'm always, there's something I'm always struggling with in writing a play, where are these people alive? Are they coming off the page, or is anything happening? So when I say trust, really, it's a leap of faith to trust. I've got an unstable connection. Am I back?
You're back now. And I think we got everything.
Great.
Astounding.
Yeah. So my unstable connection has thrown me. I'm thinking, am I unstable, or is it the connection? But
everything's unstable.
Yeah. But so the best advice I can give you is to be gentle with yourself, and to realize that each play you write is not going to be the same as the last. So what you thought you did last time is not necessarily going to work or serve you this time, because it's a new environment, except to say that once you do something, you are aware that you have done it. And you can say, oh, well, I did go off the high dive last summer, so I guess I can go off it this summer. I'm afraid. So acknowledging that you're afraid, I think, is a great way to do it, to kind of confide in someone. Oh, I don't think I can do this. Oh, here's a good tip. If you're going to confide that in someone, choose someone who loves you, right? Like if you go to someone and you're like, I don't think I can do it, and they're like, no, you probably can't. That's the wrong person. So part of it is lining up your community and your support system, so that you have people who say, you can do this, you can totally do this. And when you're in the process of it and you're stuck, again, going to another creative person and saying, I'm totally stuck. I don't know what I'm doing here, or whatever it is. And let that person ask you questions, not tell you, but ask you questions that can jog your heart or your brain about what it is that you're doing there. Or just to have that person say, I totally believe you can do it. Because I think the biggest thing standing in many of our ways is, I don't think I can do it. I just don't think I am the right person I don't think I have the skills. And that's deadly, and that's common. So I guess I would say, every time you doubt yourself, know that you're in fantastic company. I, for one, am right there with you, not doubting you, but doubting me. And that it can pass, and that your job is to figure out how to allow it to pass. And if you need to step away, step away. If you need to ask for help from someone who loves you, then do that. Take that vulnerable step of saying, I don't know what I'm doing. Try not to do it. If someone has commissioned you, try not to do it to that commissioner. But that's not the end of the world either. I've survived. But know that the only way you're going to get through this is with gentleness towards yourself. And that if you really can't write something, it's okay to step away. People will tell you, you have to write every day. You don't. Some people do, but we all have our own styles. I do not write every day. And there was a time after In Darfur, when I was not able to write. And so I made these, what I thought were incredible collage books that were really in depth and took tons of focus. And I was in total flow and so happy, except for the fact that I was mad at myself for not writing. But when I wasn't mad at myself, I was really in love with this other thing that I was doing. So if there's anything else that you love while you're stuck writing, go and do that thing. Replenish your creative self so that you are reminded that you are a creative being, and that it's almost like a flower through pavement. Like you're gonna sprout. It's just might not be the way that you expect to sprout or in the time that you want. We're always more impatient for that. But do the other things. If you write in other forms, do that. If all you can do is write a haiku, write a haiku. Like just do something, but try not to be hard on yourself about what it is that you're doing or not doing. The other thing I would say is go look at other people's art, right? Like go to a museum, or in this time, if you're able to walk outside or look outside, like watch a bird. The other day it was just yesterday, I was on a call with a bunch of artists, and everyone was talking about the TV shows that they're binging. And for a time I felt like, oh man, I'm not binging, I'm not doing this right. And then I said, I have a really limited internet connection and can't stream anything, but I've been binging nature. And it's true. Like I've just been watching what these creatures do, and it's mesmerizing. So find beauty wherever you can. If you're in your house and you have cockroaches, can you study what they're doing? Like what are they carrying? Where do they come from? What would it feel like to kill them in your hands and then kill them if you want to?
What musical would you cast them in?
Yes. Probably 42nd Street.
Yeah. We're in the money.
Yeah. I'm against killing things, but I am not against killing fleas and cockroaches and mosquitoes. Fuck that. But spiders, don't kill the spiders. I could tell you a funny story about a mouse, but that won't help you with your writing. So,
well, why don't we, leave us all with this idea of find beauty where you are, even in the cockroaches in your apartment. And that beautiful image of the flower in the pavement and being gentle with ourselves. I think these are all things that I know I can only speak from my experience, so I know I can take with me after this call. But shall we dive into the writing prompt?
Yeah, we're going to do a super quick writing prompt.
Amazing.
So write longhand. If you're in front of a computer, get a piece of paper and a pen or a whatever, a knife and some blood and a sheet if you're the Marquis de Sade. Okay, so I'm going to read you 2 sentences. And what I want you to do is I want you to write a 20-line scene which begins with these 2 sentences. So it's going to be character A and character B. And by line, I mean anything A says before B interrupts. So if A speaks a monologue, that's still 1 line. You don't have to show this to anyone, so write whatever you want to write. Character A says, I find myself itching all the time now. I find myself itching all the time now. Character B says, if I say I love you, can you handle it? Character B says, if I say I love you, can you handle it? So I'm giving you 5 minutes. Write a 20-line scene that begins with those 2 sentences. Go. if we were going to go on for hours, I would like to hear each of your scenes. But alas, we are not going on for hours. But I would like to allow you to pick up your to-go order, and that is I've got some prompts for you to use to either begin a new scene or to use as a thematic to send you somewhere. So I will read these. Here's the first one. African American men worry that following the CDC recommendations to cover their faces in public could expose them to harassment from the police. That's one. 2, every year, students in a mountain village spend months preparing for an elaborate kabuki performance. An aging society has put their show and their school in jeopardy. 3, the American Psychiatric Association's Code of Ethics expressly forbids its members from diagnosing a public figure from afar. And the food expiration dates you should actually follow. And then this last one, I always write with a sense of shame. So use those any way you like. You could be writing a scene and feel stuck, and then click over to, you could print those out and click over to it and just decide that one of your characters is going to say the food expiration dates you should actually follow, blah, 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 blah. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, students who I currently have. If any of you want to return, I will be leading other classes with primary stages. Also, the other instructors at primary stages are super, super great. I don't think that you can go wrong. You could try, but I don't think that you can. And Kelly and Sarah make it super marvelous to be a student. And if you're looking for community, they're always trying to come up with ways to create one, even in this time of living in boxes. So I hope I see your faces again. But this is the time to Vogue. This is really Voguer's time.
Everybody Vogue.
Wow.
Vogue.
I wonder if there are Vogue-offs. There probably are.
I feel like that would be like a great event. Sarah, maybe Espa has to have a Vogue off. We'll see. You'll be our first contestant, Winter.
No, please. But I can break dance, so I'll do that.
Okay, great.
Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you all for hanging out.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And on behalf of Primary Stages and Espa, thanks for being part of the family. Have a great week. Take care. Bye. Bye.